There are 7 patterns that make a woman's attention move toward a man without her deciding to let it happen. She does not choose this. It happens before choice arrives. And the man who understands these 7 patterns is never confused about attraction again. Machiavelli never wrote about this directly, but he described every mechanism that drives it. Here is what he saw. Machiavelli spent 14 years inside the Florentine court, watching people make decisions that contradicted everything they had declared they wanted. Princes who swore loyalty and switched sides the following season. Men who claimed to value honesty and rewarded deception every time it served them. People who said they wanted peace and moved toward whoever projected strength. He concluded something most people resist accepting. Human nature has consistent patterns, and those patterns operate independent of what people say they prefer. The stated preference is the story. The behavioral pattern is the truth. He was writing about power and politics, but he gave you the map. Because female attraction is also a pattern, not a random phenomenon, not unpredictable, a consistent set of responses to consistent signals. The man who understands those signals does not chase. He does not perform. He aligns with what she already responds to and lets the pattern work. 7 signals. And point 5 is the one that corrects almost every mistake men make in this area. Stay with me until you get there. Scarcity is the oldest economic principle in human behavior. What is rare is valued. What is common is not. Most men approach women with an implicit signal that says, "I am here, I am available, and I am waiting for your approval." That signal is common. It is sent dozens of times a day by dozens of different men. Common signals do not register as valuable. They register as expected. The man who sends the opposite signal has criteria for what holds his attention. He does not move immediately toward every attractive woman he encounters. He is selective. And selective sends a message that available never does. The message is, "I am not what most men are." That signal creates something she does not feel with the men who pursue her immediately. It creates curiosity. And curiosity, once activated, produces attention she does not consciously choose. Machiavelli observed that the thing most desired is always the thing most difficult to obtain. He was writing about power and alliances. The principle is identical here. The man who makes himself easy to obtain is valued like anything easy to obtain. The man who moves toward her on his own terms, selectively, only when he chooses to, is valued according to a completely different calculation. She does not decide to find this compelling. The response is automatic. Agreement is comfortable. Challenge is memorable. Most men discover quickly what a woman likes and agrees with, and then they agree with it. They confirm her views, support her preferences, validate her conclusions. This feels like connection. It produces warmth in the moment, but it produces no pull. The man who agrees with everything tells her implicitly, "I am adjusting my thinking to match yours. I want your approval more than I want to be honest." The man who wants approval more than honesty is a man who can be managed. The man who challenges, who disagrees when he genuinely disagrees, who offers a different perspective on what she just said, who does not soften his position to avoid friction, produces something entirely different. He produces the feeling that she is talking to someone who exists independently, someone with an internal world that does not rearrange itself to accommodate hers. And that independence creates respect, and respect precedes attraction. Machiavelli wrote that men judge by the eye, not the hand. What is visible? The man who stands in his own view carries more weight than anything said. She will not always agree with the challenge. That is not the point. The point is the signal it sends. He is not here to be approved of. He is here to be himself. She cannot stop noticing that. You have noticed that none of these patterns are about performing or pretending. They are about something deeper. What a man actually is, reflected back through specific behaviors. Hold that thought. What comes next builds directly on it. Social proof is not a manipulation tactic. It is biological data. When a woman observes that other women are drawn to a specific man, that he receives attention, admiration, or desire from others, her assessment of him changes automatically. She did not choose to let that information influence her. It influences her before she processes it consciously. This is not exclusive to women. Men's assessment of other men rises when those men are valued by other men. Human beings are deeply attuned to social signals because for most of human history, the social signal was the most reliable information available. Machiavelli understood this as the power of reputation. He wrote extensively about how the prince who is perceived as powerful attracts more allies, more resources, more loyalty, not because of what he actually is in any specific moment, but because of the signal his reputation projects. The same mechanism operates in attraction. The man who is surrounded by engaged, positive female attention is not just lucky. He carries a social signal that other women read and respond to before they speak to him directly. You do not need to engineer this artificially. Build a life in which you are genuinely engaged, interesting, and surrounded by people who value your company. The byproduct of that life is a social signal that precedes any individual conversation. She sees it before you speak. The man without a purpose eventually makes the woman his purpose. And the man who makes the woman his purpose has communicated something she cannot unhear. She is the most important thing in his world, which means she is responsible for managing it. That is not attraction. That is weight. The man who has a genuine mission, something he would be working on whether or not she existed, sends the opposite signal. He has somewhere to be. Something at stake that receives his full attention. When he gives her his time, she knows it is real because she can see there are other places that time could go. Machiavelli's prince was always oriented towards something larger than any single relationship. The prince who staked his entire strategy on one alliance was the weakest prince. The man who had a stake to build, objectives that dwarfed any one person, a vision that pulled him forward, that was the man everyone wanted to be aligned with. Apply this directly. The man with a mission does not reshape his schedule around her availability. He does not cancel what matters to him to stay comfortable. He has somewhere to be. The woman who sees this asks a question she would not otherwise ask. What does it take to become part of that world? That question is attraction. And she asked it herself. 4 patterns, each one a signal. Each one communicating the same underlying thing. I am a man with a complete world you were not automatically included in. Point 5 is the deepest version of that signal. And it is the one most men spend years getting wrong without knowing why. This is the one I told you about at the beginning. Every consistent mistake men make with women comes from one place. The need to be approved of. It shapes everything. The way a man speaks, the way he disagrees or does not, the way he adjusts his behavior when she seems unhappy, the way he checks her face after he says something to see how it landed. She can feel this in every interaction. She does not analyze it. She does not have to. The signal is present in everything. And the man who needs her approval has handed her something she never asked for, power over his internal state. Power, once given, is exercised, not because she is cruel, because that is what power does when someone holds it. The man who does not need her approval, who is genuinely secure in himself, who does not rearrange his expression based on her response, who says what he means and stands behind it regardless of how it lands, produces something she almost never feels. She feels the absence of her leverage. And the absence of leverage is the most compelling thing a woman can encounter in a man. It is the clearest possible signal of genuine self-possession. Machiavelli wrote, Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The man who does not need her approval is for once the same person on the inside as he appears on the outside. She can feel the difference from across a room. A man without standards sends one message: I will accept what is offered. That message has no pull. The man who has clear, non-negotiable standards for his time, his attention, and his relationship sends the opposite message: not everyone qualifies. This is not arrogance. It is self-respect expressed through behavior. And self-respect, consistently demonstrated, is one of the most accurate signals of genuine value. When a man makes it clear through behavior, not through words, that he has criteria for what earns his attention, the woman in front of him asks a question she would not otherwise ask. Do I qualify? That question changes everything. It shifts the frame. She is no longer evaluating whether she wants him. She is wondering whether she meets his standard. The man who creates that question has done something most men never do. He has reversed the direction of evaluation. Machiavelli called this the positioning that precedes the negotiation. The party that controls the frame controls the outcome. Set the standard. Hold it consistently. Let the right people rise to meet it. 6 patterns. All of them versions of the same underlying signal. The man she cannot stop thinking about is not the man who gave her the most. He is the man who required the most of himself. 1 left. The final signal is the most powerful, and it cannot be faked. Can you lose her and be okay? Not as a tactic. Not performed for effect. Genuinely, if this relationship ended tomorrow, would you be the same person on the other side of it? The man who could not survive the loss has already communicated this. In the way he tolerates behavior he would not otherwise accept. In the way he comes back after she creates distance. In the way he moderates himself to prevent what he most fears. She reads all of it. The man who could lose her and remain himself is the most compelling thing she will encounter. Because it confirms everything every other signal implied. His completeness does not depend on her presence. And the woman who encounters a man whose completeness does not depend on her faces the most interesting challenge she has ever faced. She wants to be the one who makes him choose to stay. That is not a dynamic you manufacture. It is a dynamic you earn by becoming the thing it describes. 7 patterns, none of them about performance. All of them about being a specific kind of man, consistently, without requiring anything back. Machiavelli observed that the man who endures pressure, opposition, and judgment without losing his nature is the man who is most feared and most respected. He was writing about princes. The principle has no limits. The man she cannot stop thinking about is not the man with the best words. He is the man whose nature is stable enough to require nothing from her to remain intact. 7 signals, all of them saying the same thing in the end. He is here because he chose to be, not because he needed to be. Drop a comment and say magnetic if this landed where it was supposed to. Subscribe to Machiavelli Strategy Code. New strategy every week for men who are done performing and ready to simply be.